Complex conjugate. Number 1 is asking you to solve the following equation. So let's take a closer look at it. So the first thing we need to do is subtract 9 to the other side. So we have x squared equals negative 9. To solve for x, you take the square root of both sides, and we get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 9. Notice we have a negative inside the square root. We need to take care of that, so we need to simplify this. Remember our complex rules for I equals the square root of negative 1. So we can rewrite this as plus or minus the square root of negative 1 times the square root of 9. And the square root of negative 1 is I, and the square root of 9 is 3. So we have plus or minus 3i, which is another way of saying 3i and negative 3i. So let's type that in as our answer. So 3i, comma, negative 3i. And that's number 1. Going to number 3, write the quotient in the form a plus bi. So let's take a closer look at that. So what I'm going to have to do is multiply the top and the bottom of this fraction by the conjugate of the denominator, or bottom, of this fraction. So the conjugate is 1 minus I, so multiply the top and the bottom by 1 minus I. Doing so leaves us with 2 pairs of binomials that have to be FOILed out. In the numerator, we have 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times negative I is negative 7i, 9i times 1 is 9i, and 9i times negative I is negative 9i squared. Now in the denominator, we can multiply using our special products rule. Since the first terms are the same and the second terms are the same and the signs are different, so what we can do is just multiply the first 2 terms and the last 2 terms together. So 1 times 1 is 1, and I times negative I is negative I squared. Now we gotta simplify this. We have 2 I squares here, and using our imaginary I rules, I squared equals negative 1. So we can replace the I squares with negative 1s. So negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. And then negative and negative 1 is plus 1. Combining my like terms, 7 plus 9 is 16. Negative 7i plus 9i is 2i, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So one more step in simplifying this. These 3 numbers are all even, so you can divide each of them by 2. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and 2 divided by 2 is 1 for both of those. And when you have a fraction where the denominator is 1, it means you can rewrite it without the fraction. So you'd be left with that 16 divided by 2, which is the 8, plus I. So let's type in that answer. So typing in 8 plus I, and that's the answer for number 3.